Колеги, всім
Once again, good afternoon to everybody. We're going to continue our working day in our UCMC. The topic of the next press conference: 2 years since Volodymyr Rybak was assassinated. We have Olena Rybak, widow of Volodymyr Rybak, Horlivka City Council member who was tortured and killed for opposing separatism in the city, and Olha Klimko, member of the initiative group visiting courts on crimes against Maidan. You have the floor, ladies. Good afternoon. For us, this is we are privileged and honored to introduce to you Olena Rybak, who is not only the widow of Volodymyr Rybak, but a person who for 2 years now has been fighting on every day for Ukraine, for Ukrainian ideals, so that our country become a country for which Volodymyr Rybak sacrificed his life. We had a meeting at the let's say near the street of the Heavenly 100. You know that he was a hero. He is a hero. Ukraine, Volodymyr Rybak. While there, this meeting, I heard somebody saying that he called upon all Ukrainians to go into the streets, to take it to the streets in order to support Ukrainian independence and voice out their opinion about the events taking place in those days. I would like to address the whole Ukraine. Every day, when you do not participate in the meetings against corruption, against different crimes, when you do not come to the courts which have to consider the cases against those who commit some crimes against Maidan participants, you actually become accomplices to those who commit those crimes. Rybak's last words were, every one of us bears some responsibility for the events. Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Olena Rybak. First of all, I would like to thank all those who gathered yesterday and participated in the above-mentioned meeting. Of course, I would like to commemorate the memory of my killed husband, Volodymyr Rybak, but also I would like to reproduce the picture, the atmosphere which took place 2 years ago during a meeting in the city of Horlivka. 2 years ago at 1600, this meeting started. There were just a few activists, but yesterday people were coming from the occupied territories. They tried to hide their faces, and they said, as you know, we were there, but there was, the police actually did not allow us to participate in that meeting. And but the same story today. They still they have this dangerous situation. They tried not to show their faces because they said there are still our relatives living there. Just a bit slower, she asked her to speak. That's why I would like to express my sincere gratitude for their courage and the fact that they came to Kiev yesterday means that let's say the conscience in the minds of the Ukrainians is growing, which actually gives me the ground to believe that in the final analysis, through the huge efforts, will achieve the situation when Ukraine becomes really legitimate, law ruled in democratic countries. Of course, the responsibility starts on the personal level. If my husband were afraid of anything, nothing would happen. There would be no burst of the people's anger when he was assassinated. Out of absolutely important army, we actually turned into the very powerful structure which we call the volunteer battalions. And who knows what would be the situation today in the Donbass area. Perhaps, not perhaps, but the most likely it would be absolutely occupied by the Russian subversive agents or saboteurs. Thank you, Olena. Olga. We are going to speak, to take turns. It's more convenient for Olena to speak and answer a question. So today I received a letter from Miroslav Marinovich, which is addressed to Olena. She has not read or heard about that yet. I would like to read it out aloud and would like to say that Miroslav Marinovich is one of those few leaders who always for 5 years now has been defending our ideas and most importantly the honor of each person. And he wrote such a address which is entitled Volodymyr Rybak, Knight of Dignity. From the tale about his death, they actually run blood turns cold. If we're talking about his death and tortures, is really they are terrible. But when we are talking about his life, it enlightens our hearts and souls. To live such a life and to sacrifice such life, only this could be done by a knight who can differentiate between the evil and the good, and who can defend anybody. During those very difficult times of Maidan, he said, if I survive those days, it means I'm going to live for a long time. Really, he actually foreseen his destiny, because we, sinful, are going to die, but through his sacrifice, he actually he defeated the death, and he's going to live for a long time in the names of streets and schools. And when the human memory subsides, he's going to live in the eternal memory of the heavens. Volodymyr Rybak actually defended Ukrainian rights, and he visualized the future of his own land. I'm moved by his very simple and let's say love for Ukraine. So let there be a time when his native land will actually give the glory to him and the people their gratitude. When we are talking about this name of Volodymyr Rybak and his sacrifice, so let the hands of the real the occupationists may be lowered, and of course this is going to be a warning to those who is lack of spirit, and this will be eternal. Eternal reprimand to all those who are weak in their heart and soul. And be support for his near and dear. I know this truth when being in the Brezhnev concentration camps. Valery Marchenko was actually deceased, and his mother stayed in Kiev. And for those years, she was destined to live. After that, she lived a very honest, maybe invisible, decent life, and very maybe invisible, but very strong support was the memory of his son. And I believe it will be the same happen to. In this case, he is going to be support to Olena Rybak is his children. Before actually dying, he thanked her and said that and nobody but you can support me. And today was the
biggest support for the family. He will be support for his family forever. And he sacrificed his life, and God hears his prayers. And on the earth, the family will get respect and support from people. And people should warm this family with their hearts. And volunteers should take care of them. And they should provide them with some assistance. And his soul will live and in the hands of God. And Miroslav Marinovich, 2016. So this was the letter. Thank you, Olena. Thank you, Olga. Do you have questions? Yemets Maria, UCMC. All we know that this settlement is under control of other people. So who were these people who apprehended him and killed him, and one more person with him? It is known for sure that Besler and Girkin are responsible for the apprehension of my husband, and I gave the interview yesterday, and that was an interview from the 16th of April, one day before his apprehension, and he said that Besler called from Crimea, and Volodya was the deputy of the council, and Besler also was, they said that I will come and I will do something to you. And Besler prepared his network and tried to find a way to remove pro-Ukrainian patriots. They tried to threaten, to bribe people, and these methods Rybak didn't like these methods, and they wanted to, they understood that they can remove Rybak only physically, and they wanted to remove him. And also there is an interview of Volodya. They said that I should go undercover, but I am against this, and I call on everyone, all the patriots, together to unite and to defend our city. And I did it during the first day of seizure, when I was in the building of administration with a group of Euromaidan, and those separatists, they became afraid and they left. We demanded them to leave the building. They were afraid because they saw the alternative. But the next day, 100 separatists came, and we were too few, and when we have 100 for 100, then we will have dialogue and peace. But for now, these people, he said, they became aroused that they can build one person by 10 people, and they look like sheep. And these people, they removed the flag. This is not one-time deed. From the start of this Horlivka Russian Spring and the organization of self-defense of Horlivka that was organized at that time by the mayor of Horlivka, Volodymyr, opposed to these facts, and he provided his interviews, and he called on all the patriots. He had very clear civil position, and but it didn't, and no one knew that this will be such a terrible consequence, and there was some feeling, terrible feeling. I said, stop, they will kill you. But I said that Maidan, he said Maidan won, and everything will be okay. He was an optimist, and he believed that he could help the city, but there were some traitors. There were mayor and people who represented authorities of the city, and Titushkas also were present. So this was a planned action. They apprehended him from the third attempt. This wasn't for the first time. And they planned these actions. And it was very difficult to find, and I don't have witnesses who saw him alive in Slavyansk. They only gave me Christ in small torture room. It was, of course, his cross, silver cross. It was a big silver cross, and I asked everyone who came from captivity. No one saw him alive there, and there are some evidence that he was removed from there dead, and there are a lot of questions in investigation and as to his seizure and his killing. Next question. UCMC, Elena Sevchenko. You addressed security services of Ukraine, and you provided some evidence. And the mayor of Horlivka, he continued to live in Ukraine, as I know. Yes, he is in Ukrainian territory. He lives in disguise of Ukrainian patriot. He created self-defense, and he headed all the meetings. And then he understood who came to power, and he understood that this is not Folon and this is banditism. He decided to return to Ukrainian territory, and he imitated that he was in captivity. And I addressed the people who apprehended him, and they said that they defend him, that there was an attempt by private right sector, and one person even died because he defended the mayor. And he is in Ukrainian territory, and he tries to create some party, political party, and he was phoned, and they said that this is the day of remembrance of Rybak. And what about I have the group of opposition. They prepared all the materials that show his guiltiness, and I provided information to Nalyvaichenko, and he promised to detain him in 3 days. And when I came to him and asked, but then they closed this case and everything stopped, and I addressed to different institutions, and for 5 hours I provided evidence on the camera as a witness, but there are other video and audio materials and other evidence, and other witnesses were called on. So, and this Gleb was detained, and he was brought to SBU office, and then he was released. And on the 20th of February, Vasily Gritsak, head of SBU, he promised to that I should come to him, and there is video, there are all evidence, and
really, do I have to give my consent to that or whatever? So 2 months more elapsed and nothing changed. So maybe this kind of down-to-earth question. So after all those events, you went to Kiev, you came to Kiev. So where do you reside now? And speaking about your everyday conditions, everything is resolved or not? No. The government, no, the state never helped me in anything. I live, because my husband is a member of the Heavenly 100, and 1 year ago, actually, those kind of social guarantees were offered to me as well. I also have some job. Well, the housing issue problem hasn't been resolved. We actually pay for our residence. We just rent some of the apartment. I am addressing different people, but no only promises I met with. I can elaborate on that. Olena is a very courageous person, and on a very rare occasions she is talking about this topic which she touched upon. Maybe this for first time over the last 2 years she started to answer such questions. Her point of view has always been like that. She knows how to wait, and she can do that, and she understands that there is the big difference between the Ukrainian people and the Ukrainian officials. She has always been supported by Ukrainian people, but not by the Ukrainian officials. If those officials would like to know why, we can talk about that for a long time. And I would like to emphasize that there are respective decisions made, and the MPs actually allocated some funds or money for purchasing an apartment, and actually they took into consideration that Olena and her daughter actually lost all their belongings and property because they had to leave those places under very difficult and awful conditions. So they offered some housing, but that offer was terrible. Terrible. And other organizations, members of organizations of the families of the Heavenly 100, they actually demanded to reconsider, to revisit those very you know, unknown decisions and find out what kind of housing could be offered. So if our journalists can address those questions to the mayor, you know, which is absolutely reasonable because he was elected by us, I believe this must be done very timely manner. If there are no more questions, maybe Olena, you know, if you have 1 minute more, her son actually wrote a poem, which is mostly read by the internet, in the internet, because this is a very impressive poem which expresses their points of view, Olena and her children. This poem was dedicated by my son to his father. I would like to actually to dedicate this poem to all those patriots who were killed in action or who were lost for their sons. That it's a bit easier for me. Why? Just in the heat of the spring could not avoid the meeting with death, and now you come on with, in my dreams to me. With every coming years, my pain subsides, but sometimes I really am sad because I realize that I'll never see you again or will not hear you talking to me. I won't be able to tell you about my victories and losses. I wouldn't be able to shake your hand. Because myself, I also died in the same spring because of the grief, of sadness. You know, but I allowed a hope to come into my heart. I became stronger. You know, hit, you know, we find ourselves now in darkness, as if during the day when you was killed, when I remember you, I remember during the night how the candle was actually slowly burning out, and the rain was crying with me over your grave. I will kill April because April took you from me and took the spring from you forever. Glory to Ukraine, glory to heroes, and thank you, Elena, thank you, Olga, and this brings us to the end of our press conference. Thank you.